no existence. There was practically no tendency of anyone to say to another man, your faith is wrong, or your gods are unreal, or anything of that nature. That attitude was foreign to antiquity. Wherever the deities were strong enough to protect you, you worshiped them. And generally, the so-called state religion concept prevailed. And if you were within the state, you held to its faith. If you traveled from another country temporarily as a merchant or someone of that nature, and you came within the area of a deity different from your own, it was assumed that there would be a certain fraternization among the gods also. Your belief was held with respect, but it was very unlikely that you would be able to convert anyone to it in the new area. You were there as a guest. Your God was there as a guest of the local deities, and everybody expected everybody to take a nice attitude about the whole thing. All of a sudden, this changed, and changed in an extraordinary way. There gradually developed, in an incredibly short time, considering the motions of these days, a difference of attitude involving the total rejection of certain ideas as false and superstitious, the imposing of an entirely new group of ideas, and the division of peoples into schismatic groups, bitterly antagonistic to each other, and frequently ready to persecute and martyr the members of other faiths. This was a new and different situation. It arose with the changing of certain patterns, and we still are not too sure of what caused these patterns to change. But individuals living quietly within the atmosphere of their local gods did not change without cause. And this cause was not revelational. This cause was historical, social, and political. It had to be, because it had to strike into the lives of many persons of different minds and in different localities, in whose lives and thoughts such ideas had not previously existed to a degree that there is any historical record of them. Something happened, and we must begin to try to find out what did happen. One of the things that probably contributed very strongly to this situation was the rise of the Roman Empire. The Romans were the first great colonizing people of our knowledge. Also, they were the outstanding exponents of a way of life based upon commerce, exchange, and economic procedures. The Roman actually carried his religious philosophy more lightly than any other recorded ancient people. To him, religion was secondary to business. Of course, it's quite incredible that such should be the case, and we can hardly imagine it, although we're in exactly the same spot today. The Roman had his religious services, and he had his prayers, but he was perhaps the first man to pray for the inconvenience of his competitors. He very definitely invited the gods to work a hardship on anyone he didn't like. He also was perhaps among the first to pray for profit and for these material concerns which were comparatively secondary in the religious life of ancient peoples. He was also confronted with a situation that perhaps disillusioned him, or on another way of looking at it, opened him to the modern attitude on religion. In the process of colonizing and conquering and extending the boundaries of his domain until the Roman, in his glory, controlled most of the known world. In this procedure, it was necessary for him to absorb, govern, direct, and integrate into the great pattern of the Roman political structure more than 100 different peoples. These peoples, each with their own religions. This was the first time that these various religions had been subjected to the domination of a comparatively unreligious people. Here we have an interesting situation, because we can no longer assume that the gods of Rome simply won the battle. The Romans took much more faith in their phalanx and in their trained military power and in their machines of war than they did in divine intercession. The peoples conquered did not find it, therefore, possible to simply worship the gods of Rome. Even the Romans could not tell them how to do so. Other than state festivals and certain broad concepts, the Romans had no religious substitute for the type of spiritual value which existed among the peoples that were conquered. At no time, for example, did the Roman have a religious philosophy as deep as that of the British Druids, although he conquered Britain. He never had a religion or philosophy as great, noble, or profound as the philosophies and religions of Greece, yet he became temporal master of Greece. Step by step, therefore, the world was bound together without benefit of the gods. Now, the Roman was enough of a businessman to realize something that even we do not fully recognize as we try to gather around some such place of compromise and arbitration as the United Nations Council chamber. The Roman realized that he could not profitably destroy the religions of all the peoples he conquered. He realized that to do so would be to destroy the social structure of the world. He therefore controlled the religion, but did not attempt to destroy it. And in the height of the empire, Rome, in its great edicts, declared universal religious tolerance. And at the time of the great Roman Forum, which was really the common ground of the empire, temples to many deities of many races and of many nations stood side by side with complete immunity from persecution. The Roman did not care what you worshipped, as long as you paid your taxes and kept out of treasonable activity. He did not care what your religion was, as long as you did not attempt to discredit the economic, political, military, or social power of the Roman state. Therefore, nearly all religious persecution in Rome was the result of groups or individuals attacking the Roman way of life. As long as they did not do this and simply maintained their interest in their own affairs, the Romans were not inclined to persecute in any way. And the proof of that is that nearly all of the great religious and philosophical teachers of the period at one time or other drifted into Rome, had schools there, and taught publicly without any interference of any kind. They taught many doctrines strange to Rome, but they paid their taxes and kept out of politics, and all went well. This, however, presented for the first time a situation that had never existed in our general thinking. The world, the Roman world, had the spectacle of many gods meeting on a common ground, the temples of many faiths, and to a certain degree, this proximity must have influenced Roman thinking. It must have caused the Roman, and later the members of other peoples that came to Rome for one reason or another, to do for the first time what you might call religious shopping. They began to look around. Instead of simply worshiping the conventional deities of Rome, they learned that a certain teacher was particularly outstanding, so they went to him. We know that because of their attitude, the Roman intellectual would go to the great teacher of rhetoric regardless of his gods. That made no difference. But we can be quite certain that an outstanding master of rhetoric or philosophy, addicted to other deities, would certainly involve his students in his personal philosophies and religions as time went on. So we have the possibility, which did not previously exist, of the average person weighing gods against each other, trying to observe the relative values of things, and coming to the conclusion that this was deeper than that, or that was more shallow than this, and the possibility arose of the individual saying, I believe this philosophy or this theology is better than that. Previously, such comparison was comparatively impossible. This arose also in the building of Roman philosophy. And when we study the works of the principal Roman philosophers, as Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, the Emperor Julianus, and Cicero, and several of the other outstanding men of the time, we know that they were all eclectic philosophers. That is, they showed definitely that each one of them had trotted from one temple to another and had gained something every time he stopped. And out of this religious circumambulation of the forum, he had come to a new kind of philosophy, with a bit of Egyptian, a bit of Greek, a bit of Persian, and perhaps a few vestiges of old Roman lore, and a kindly thought for the Druids, or the Mithraic teachings, which became the principal religion of the Roman legions. During their period of the conquest of Britain, for example, the Roman soldiers were not even worshipping the Roman gods. They were worshipping the Persian Mithraic deities. The image of Mithras slaying the ox was the principal symbol, and the Roman soldiers left it in England by a little stream, and because of this statue it was later called Oxford, and there the great University of Oxford was built, being built upon a monument or in relation to a monument of a Persian god placed there by Orthodox Roman legionnaires. Now you begin to see that we're in what might be termed a polyglot situation. Rome made possible, in fact made inevitable, that discriminating persons who previously probably had never visited far from their own lands were now able, within Rome itself, or in Alexandria under Roman control, or in Athens under Roman control, or in Antioch under Roman control, or Ephesus, all of these great polyglot centers being then Romanized politically, that they could go to these centers, or living in them, could enjoy extraordinary educational and cultural opportunities. That in any one of these cities a dozen great teachers might be flourishing together, not as in Greece, divided by their arts and sciences primarily, but now divided in the total religion, philosophy, and idealism which dominated their systems. There is no doubt that without such a situation, Gnosticism, a polyglot belief, could not have come into existence. Neoplatonism could not have arisen to the condition of general recognition which it enjoyed. There would have been very little possibility of the ascent of Manichaeism, which was another one of the